All right, so what if you suddenly disappeared for your business for a week or even a day? How would everything keep running smoothly? Would it totally fall apart? Today on the podcast, I'm going to talk about one of the most eye opening tests that you can give your business. It is what's called the hit by a bus test. Yes, I know that sounds weird, maybe even a little bit morbid, but trust me, this is the best way to find out what's actually working with your business, what's broken, and what you need to do to improve your business over time. And it's really all about removing yourself from the business. The hit by a bus test, what this really is, it's removing yourself as the clinic owner from the daily operations, right? So it's basically like your staff acting as if you don't exist anymore and they can't come running to you to put out every little fire. So it's no emails, no Slack messages, no relying on you to be bringing in all of the new evaluations, to be ordering the dry needles, anything along those lines. And really, what this does is it starts to reveal if you have the right systems in place, the right team in place, and the right processes in place. The reason that I'm talking about this today is because I actually just recently went through this. You can probably hear it in my voice a little bit, but this past week, I got the shit kicked out of me with the flu or COVID or norovirus or whatever the hell is going around. And on Tuesday afternoon, I definitely could feel something was up. I wasn't as energetic as I normally am, tried to push through it. And yeah, just got super, super sick. And basically, this is an aside with all of this stuff, but what I tried to do and what I suggest you guys do not do when you're sick and when you're entrepreneurs and trying to run a clinic is I tried to push through it and I tried to still continue to work and have my meetings. And I was like, oh, I'll just feel better. Like it'll be fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. And what ended up happening for me is if I would have just taken Wednesday and Thursday off, or even just Wednesday off, I probably would have felt much better come Thursday and Friday. But instead, I tried to half ass my Tuesdays and Wednesdays and try to work through the worst parts of being sick. And that actually knocked me on my ass so I got nothing basically done on all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and all day Friday. And really, the worst part is I'm up in Maine and I love to ski. And because I neglected just taking a day off, it sounds so ridiculous, but I just wouldn't give myself that day off. We had almost 2 feet of snow here up in Maine. This is the first real big snowstorm that we had. And I had to miss out on it because I could not leave the couch all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. So this is definitely a big learning lesson for me, not only with the business where, I should have just given myself that one day off to come back and help the team Thursday and Friday. But I am also missing out on the whole point of all of this stuff, whereas I'm working so that I can allow myself to ski these big storms. And I totally miss out on that. Again, as a total aside there, give yourself those days off. If you are sick, it is totally fine to take a day off. But getting back to this hit by a bus test, what I discovered at Patch and what the hit by a bus test allows for you to do is it allows for you to understand what's working really well with the business and what doesn't need you to function anymore, which is a clear sign of a healthy business, and what isn't working super well. So what I found out was our day-to-day ops was totally fine. Did not need me at all with this stuff. I have a badass team in place and they ran without a hitch without me, which is awesome to see. So any client deliverables were still handled properly. Any client communication was all still done. We actually, this is great timing with all this stuff. We recently just brought on a new sales rep to Patch as well. And we onboarded 2 new people in the time period where I was sick as well. All the operations and the sales side of things, those are all perfectly fine. But the side that wasn't was the marketing side of things. And this is what revealed to me where I took Patch. I didn't do this on purpose. What it showed me was that all the marketing that I'm doing, a lot of it through my personal channel and through the newsletter side of things, and obviously this podcast, but without me being there in the day to day and actually driving that marketing forward, it didn't happen. If you guys follow me on Instagram, like I didn't post for a week And I actually didn't end up sending out my Friday newsletter either. I literally slept through the noontime deliverable date or time where I send out that Friday newsletter. I literally had people reaching out to me being like, "Hey, where's the Friday newsletter? What's going on here?" And so, yeah, so that was a big eye-opening experience for me. And again, totally fine. That's why this test is in place. So now what I can do is I can understand, okay, we got the sales side of things down, check there. The operation side of things, all good, check there. If I want to continue marketing, even without me being here, I now know what I need to go and what holes I need to plug up for the next time where I can stress test the business. And this is understanding that things breaking when you're away, this is actually a good thing. I could have really been hung up on these things and look at them as a bad thing, but it means exactly where the holes are and that you can fix them. There's no more guessing or wasting time on areas that don't need it. So this test is your fast track to building a business that can survive and thrive without you having to be like actually glued to the driver's seat. So this is really important, and it really showed me, again, personally, Patch, all right, here's what I got to go now that I'm feeling a little bit better. And what I'm going to do for the rest of Q1 into Q2 is I need to fix the marketing side of things. And again, the interesting part with all of this is I had all of the content already done. It's already edited. It's already teed up and ready to go. I literally just couldn't get myself to log into Instagram and post it. There's some very clear steps for me to take that next step forward and to solve these things. And this is what, again, this hit by a bus test should show you. And I think there's usually for clinic owners, and when I used to do this for Ripple, there's really like three typical outcomes that end up happening when you step away from your clinic. And I think the first thing that ends up happening and what clinic owners start to see is that when you step away, there's really no one there to run the show. And I think this was the biggest turning point for us at Ripple was when I put a key employee in place. And I think as soon as you have a couple employees, this is where you need to designate somebody on staff. It doesn't need to be mean because they were there the longest or they're the oldest person. It's whoever can take this responsibility, but there needs to be a key staff member in place so that when you're away, they are the person to go to for any of the day-to-day tasks. Because if your eventual goal is time freedom and you want to avoid burnout, and the reason you started this clinic was to get a little bit of your time back, having this second in command becomes super, super important. And what I know when I hear from a lot of clinic owners, and this happened with me at Ripple, is anytime that I would go away, people would just be, I don't know, really know who to go to if something hits the fan, or even though Jeremy's on vacation, I'm still going to shoot him a Slack message and ask him a million questions about what needs to be done at the clinic. And again, if the point of starting the clinic is to have that time freedom, then you need to have somebody to be in place to run the show for you. So that's the first thing that I typically see whenever a clinic owner starts to step away is that there's no one really in place to run the show. The second thing that I typically see is that without you, the clinic owner, being there, there's no real way of generating revenue. And this is the hard truth with this, but if the business stops making money when you're not there, you've unfortunately just got a job. You don't really have a business. And if you want a business and you want time freedom, then when you step away and you go to a conference or you go on vacation, or again, you're sick like I was, the business should continue to generate revenue for you. That's having people in place. They know how to sell packages. They know how to charge payments. They don't need you there to put money into your bank account. This is where having SOPs in place on how to do all these things becomes super, super important. Again, at Ripple, I knew every PT everywhere, like charge process was detailed out in an SOP. We have all of this stuff for Patch as well. If we're onboarding somebody, here's exactly the 10 things that need to be to happen in order for us to collect revenue from them. Understanding that, yes, of course, you're going to be fulfilling a little bit as a clinic owner, especially if you're just getting started. But If you are to go away for a week, for a month, for a couple days, can the business generate revenue without you being there? That's a very clear sign of whether or not you have a healthy business or not. And I think that regardless of where you're at in your growth stage, this is what you should be striving for. You don't need to have a clinic that has 10 or 12 employees and is doing a million and a half, $2 million a year. But what you need to have is you need to have something that you've built that generates money without you being there. I think that's really important. And it's how you get off of the wheel of just trying to sell and fulfill on your own and only eating what you kill. The third thing, and probably the most classic one that I see, is that when a clinic owner steps away, there is no chance that any new leads or evaluations or new patients are coming in the door. Marketing is often the thing that falls apart if the clinic owner is not the one there driving that forward. So they're the one that is handling all of the local relationships. So again, if they're gone for a couple weeks, maybe you're out for a month, something along those lines. If none of your staff members have been introduced to any of your local referrals, then it's going to be really hard to continue nurturing those relationships and getting those people in the door. I think a lot of like clinic owners, they often rely on themselves and their patient base to be like the source of the word of mouth referrals that are coming in the door. So it's a lot of like personal hustling, which is super risky. And I knew like Ripple was starting to be successful when my staff members were starting to get referrals on their own and people were coming in the door that had no fucking idea who I was. That's when, again, I knew I was like, yes, okay, we're doing something correct here because these people that are coming in, they don't know anything about me. And again, if you're to take a vacation and you're to step away from the clinic for a couple weeks and put your clinic through the stress test, who is going to be leading the charge on the marketing end? So you need to, create a predictable and systemized marketing engine. And this is where, running paid ads comes into play. This is where having a CRM comes into play. This is where posting on Instagram comes to play. All of these things that you may be doing as a clinic owner, if you were to step away and not do them anymore, who do you have in place to be able to do these things? I think it's a really important thing to remember. So again, the three things that I typically see for clinic owners, if they were to stress test their business and step away for a while, these are the three most common things that will tend to break is there's no one there to run the show. The business will not generate any revenue without the clinic owner being there. And there are really going to be no evaluations or leads or new patients coming in the door without that clinic owner. And I think this is like a quick entrepreneur reality check as well. Learn from me from this week. I'm really taking this to heart of don't be a hero when you're sick or you're burnt out. Taking time off actually saves you time in the long run, and it often reveals exactly what your business needs to keep growing. So if you're hearing this and you're thinking, yep, that's me, I never fully unplug, then this stress test is definitely for you. And I think again, it's really important to run the stress tests every once in a while because to that exact point, it shows for you, it shows you in your clinic like what is working really well. Like what is my staff and my team and my systems, like what processes do we have in place right now that are doing amazing? And then if you were to take yourself out of that, what things aren't working well and what needs your 100% attention, because you can take those things and you can understand, okay, I like doing these things, so I'm going to keep the patient care side or the marketing side or running the team meeting side of things. But there should also be things that show up when you remove yourself for a week or so, and you can say, okay, I need to figure out solutions for these things that are breaking. So maybe it's, again, if the day-to-day operations is what breaks when you leave, and you don't really care about that, and that's something that it probably should be something that you want to elevate a current employee to be that person for when you're gone, then you need to start putting some processes in place of, okay, hey, listen, like I am going to take vacation. And again, let this be just an invitation for you to actually take vacation. It is okay to do that. But when you do have your shit together in the back end that says, okay, when I am gone for these 10 days, here is Jim. Jim is going to be the person that you go to for all of your questions. You have a conversation with Jim about what they need to do and how they're going to handle these things. And that's going to put you in a really good position for to take that time off and not be on call 24/7 for your staff members. So I think putting this into practice, I think you should run this test a couple times a year. Again, I think all clinic owners and I need to take my own medicine with all of this stuff, but vacations are essential. I think it's actually like a proactive strategy. It shouldn't just be the way I've done time off in the past is it's just a reaction to burnout. I got nothing left in the gas tank. I need to take a few days off. That is not how you should be running your business and how you should be handling things as an entrepreneur. I think that taking time off and being away from the clinic is a really good way to run this test a few times a year for your business. And what I found was really successful for Ripple was I used to be in the clinic. I made sure I was the first person in there every morning, 5 days a week, making sure I was showing up, showing my face. But I think like a good way to do this is you stop showing up on Fridays or Tuesdays. You only go in for the afternoon, or there's a couple days a week where you're not there, and you can start testing the business and seeing can they handle things without me? Because the next important thing with this is like how do you prepare your team? You can't just stop showing up to the clinic, seeing how things go, but then not putting any processes in place to actually fix things. So if you're only going to go into the clinic twice a week, and what's going to happen on those other 3 days? So you need to prepare your team. You need to identify a key player who can handle the operations, maybe some of the sales in person, the marketing, the customer experience that's happening at the clinic. And you need to provide them with SOPs, with checklists, and like the actual authority to make decisions. Because what you don't want to happen is you put this key employee in place, you let them handle all the day-to-day operations, but then when you're not there, you have staff members slacking you on the back end, being like, "Hey, I just wanted to run this by you." It's no, go to the person that's in charge. That's who you should be asking these questions to, and making sure that you and this key employee are aligned is super, super important. And that's where you should be able to I knew like when I identified my key employee, her and I, if somebody asked a question, I knew 100% that her and I were going to have the same exact answer for whatever this question was going to be. So that's when I knew is like, and I felt comfortable telling my staff members, listen, don't bother me with these questions. Go directly to the clinic director that we now have in place. But you can't do that unless you have written SOPs. There's tons of training that's happened. There's checklists and you give them the actual authority to make these decisions. And then I think the important thing is like understanding that things are going to crumble and it's going to be a bit of a shit show and it's going to be a little bit of a disaster, but that is totally okay. And that is the point of a stress test because you can see which areas start to crumble. And then you just figure out a game plan on here's how we fix all of this stuff. I was like, there's a saying, I forget exactly what it is, of there's opportunity in chaos or something like that, where things that go a little bit awry, if you can take that chaos and understand why that chaos happened and then put a plan in place to fix that chaos, then you're going to be in such a better spot for anything moving forward with the business. And not only have you solved some of those holes with your business, you've now taken another step towards totally automating your practice. If you have interest in selling your business, then that's going to make it that much more attractive to actually sell your business. And if you want to take a couple months off and you don't want to have to be in the clinic every day, working 12 hours a day, responding to Slack messages, then these are just the things that you have to do. And so I think this is just a really valuable lesson. Again, I just put myself through it. You guys can probably hear my voice. Like I probably got 10 words left here. So hopefully I'll be good for the rest of the week. But I think this is just a really important thing. It was very top of mind for me that This is something that I used to do with Ripple a bunch just to see how things would go. And I think it's a lot of clinic owners, there's just a lot of control with the clinic and they want to be involved and have their hand in things at all times. And I think this is just a really good reflection of take a step back, let your employees try to make decisions on their own, figure out what was working really well, figure out what's not working well, and then fix those things that aren't working well. So hopefully this makes sense for you guys. And let this be an invitation to take a vacation and turn your phone off and see how the clinic does and see how things actually unfold when you're not there. I think that you will be pleasantly surprised for the most part. And the things that you aren't super happy with, just create a plan and fix those things. So I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.